14. That's how many times my phone lit up this morning before I even opened my eyes. 14 missed calls from people who haven't spoken to me in weeks. 2 weeks ago, my sister looked me dead in the face and told me I'd ruined her life. Our parents just sat there nodding like it was some universal truth they'd all agreed on when I wasn't looking. I didn't yell. Didn't cry. Just walked out with a backpack and the kind of silence that feels heavier than any scream. Now suddenly they need me? Here's what I want to know: what changed? Before we get into that, tell me something: where are you right now? What time is it where you're listening to this? Leave a comment, because maybe you know what it's like to be erased until the people who threw you away realize they actually need you after all. Let me take you back to that night. I was standing in the doorway between our kitchen and living room, holding this chipped mug of tea I'd microwaved twice already. Stephanie was holding court on the couch, ring light glowing around her like some kind of angelic halo, celebrating hitting 50,000 followers. Our parents were watching her like she'd just won a Nobel Prize. I'd been standing there for 20 minutes and nobody had even said my name. Then her laptop screen flickered. "Oh my God, not now," she groaned, that perfect smile dropping faster than a bad stock. She turned those cold eyes on me. "Why does this always happen when you're around? Like I was some kind of human tech virus. You stress me out just by breathing, Belle. You throw off my whole vibe." I looked at our parents, waiting for someone to laugh it off, to tell her she was being ridiculous. Instead, my mother stood up, brushing imaginary lint off her pants. "She's not wrong," she said, so calm it made my skin crawl. "Every time something good happens, you find a way to ruin it. You've ruined her life. Honestly, you've ruined ours too." My father didn't say a word. Just rubbed the bridge of his nose like I was giving him a migraine just by existing. 15 minutes later I was on a bus to downtown Charlotte with $42 in my pocket and a backpack full of whatever I could grab in under 5 minutes. Nobody asked where I was going. Nobody tried to stop me. The motel clerk didn't even look up from his reality show when he handed me the key. "Cash or card?" he mumbled, like he'd said it 1,000 times before. The room smelled like old cigarettes and whatever cheap cleaner they used to try covering that up. I dropped my bag on the floor and just stared at this water stain on the ceiling. From the right angle it looked like a broken heart. Tilt your head a little and it could be a dying star. My phone buzzed against the nightstand. Not a "where are you?" Not a "come home." Just a notification, reminder: unopened Mother's Day gift from Belle delivered 2 years ago. A pair of silk handkerchiefs with her initials stitched in gold thread. I'd saved up for weeks to get them monogrammed. She never even opened the box. I used to think that was the worst part, that they never opened my gifts. That night I realized the truth was worse. They never opened me. And into a challenge. I walked until I found this little cafe near the bus depot. Free Wi-Fi, coffee refills all day. Ordered the smallest coffee they had, $1.75, and logged into every tutoring platform I'd ever bookmarked but never used. Updated my profile, specializing in SAT/ACT prep. Writing support. Study planning. Patient. Reliable. Under about me I wrote 3 words: I show up. By noon I'd applied to 16 different listings. Parents desperate for help with their kids' college applications. Students drowning in deadlines. People who needed someone to believe in them, which, funny enough, was the one thing I actually knew how to do. Halfway through my 5th application, I stopped cold. The words "compassionate listener" stared back at me from the screen. Suddenly I was 10 years old again, sitting at Grandma's feet during Sunday dinner while everyone else talked over each other. "You were always the one who listened," she'd whisper to me when nobody was paying attention. Not flashy. Not loud. But present. Really present. I thought about her funeral. Some family friend I barely knew pulled me aside and said, "Your grandmother's second letter was beautiful. I hope it brought you peace." "Second letter?" I asked. "I only got one." The woman looked confused. "Oh, I must be mistaken." She told me she wrote you another one 8 months before she passed. When I asked my mother about it 3 days later, she didn't even look up from her coffee. Oh, that? It wasn't anything important. Just sweet old lady things. Just sweet old lady things. That letter, like everything else important to me, had been erased. A pattern so quiet and constant you don't even notice it until one day you wake up and realize all your edges have been sanded down by the people who were supposed to love you the most. I shook it off and kept applying. By the end of the week, I had 3 clients. 2 high school juniors panicking about the SATs and an adult learner going for her GED. The library let me borrow a Chromebook for sessions. I booked 2-hour slots every afternoon and treated those laptops like they were my lifeline because they were. The pay wasn't much, but every dollar felt earned. And the students? They listened. They asked questions. One girl, Riley, said during our second session, "You're the only person who's explained this in a way that makes sense." It was strange, being seen by strangers in ways my own family never saw me. That night back at the motel, I recorded my earnings on the back of an old receipt. 2 more nights paid for. The room still smelled like bleach and sadness, but it was mine. For the first time in years, I felt something unfamiliar uncoil in my chest. Not happiness exactly. Not yet. But the first faint whisper of pride. Then my phone buzzed. A post from Stephanie popped up on my feed. "Family is who shows up when it matters. Don't ever forget that." There she was, all shiny hair and perfect teeth, sandwiched between our parents, glasses raised and some toast. But my eyes locked onto what was behind them, the family portrait on the wall. Except I wasn't in it. Not even a little. Just Stephanie front and center, Mom beaming in her cream cardigan, Dad doing his best to smile, even the damn golden retriever they got after I left for college. A perfect little nuclear family. Airbrushed and curated. I zoomed in. Same hallway. Same wall. But the old portrait, the one with all 4 of us from when I was 16, was gone. Replaced. Erased. I scrolled through her other posts. Throwback to the good old days. There I was, always half out of frame. Family dinner last Sunday. My shoulder barely in the shot. And now? Now I wasn't even that much. A memory hit me like a punch, 9 years old, standing on a stool so I'd be tall enough for the church group photo. Stephanie laughing, "Belle always looks like she photobombed us." Everyone chuckled. Even Mom, though she did half-heartedly say, "She's just shy." But they still moved me to the end. Out of frame was easier. I reached for my bag, needing to focus on work. As I sorted through tutoring inquiries, I noticed an email in my spam folder. Subject line, Family Podcast Opportunity. Sent by Stephanie. I was CC'd. My stomach dropped. The message was to some PR rep pitching a show about modern family dynamics through resilience and social media. And at the bottom, my sister's words, "She's just bitter and emotionally unstable. We don't talk for a reason. It's taken years to rebuild the family's image." I read that line 3 times. Bitter. Unstable. Rebuild. I took screenshots. Printed them at the library the next morning. Taped them to the motel wall next to Grandma's note. 2 versions of me, side by side. One believed I could build. The other believed I didn't deserve to exist. That's when I started making my list. Dates. Comments. Moments. The slow erasure. The way they'd look right through me at dinner like I was made of glass. The behind-the-back insults that had finally made it to print. It didn't feel petty anymore. It felt necessary. Like if I didn't write it down, even I might start to forget it ever happened. A few days later, an email came in from a Dallas-based tutoring group. They'd reviewed my profile. $75 per student. Real money. I accepted without celebration. No jumping up and down. No calling anyone. Just a quiet nod to myself. That night, another knock at the door. Not the angry pounding I expected. Just 3 hesitant taps. Havila, my old best friend, stood there holding something wrapped in a dish towel. "They told me you were in trouble," she said. I didn't believe them until I saw this. She held out a small envelope. My handwriting. Still sealed. "I found it in your mom's desk," she whispered. "Under a stack of expired coupons." I took it. The birthday card I'd mailed last year. "Mom, if there's still space in your heart for me, I'd like to sit there again." She never opened it. Just tucked it away like a receipt from a store she'd never visit again. Havila sat with me while I opened it. "That wasn't all," she said, pulling printouts from her bag. Stephanie's New Success Academy. My lesson plans. My diagrams. Even my damn color scheme. All under her name now. "She said you gave it to her," Havila added. We both knew that was a lie. I laughed then. One of those sharp, airless laughs that doesn't even make it out of your throat. Havila left crying. I sat on the floor, back against the cheap wood paneling, staring at the stolen work in my hands. Then my phone lit up. Missed call. Dad. Then another. And another. 14 in total. Voicemails stacked up. I didn't listen at first. But curiosity won. The last one was my father's voice, tired and strained. "Belle, your sister's getting dragged all over the internet. Some blog picked up the story. They're calling it plagiarism. She's saying you're lying, but we need your help to calm it down. She's not handling it well. No, how are you? No, we miss you. Just the same old pattern, we need you when the house is on fire." I didn't answer. Didn't text back. Just sat there in the quiet, phone glowing in my lap. "They only ever call," I said to the empty room, "when they need me to fix what they broke." That's when I saw it. A folder on my laptop I hadn't opened in years. Grandma_legal. Inside, one scanned document, will_bellin.jpg. My grandmother's signature. A clause I'd forgotten: "All educational materials and preparatory curriculum created or co-developed with Belle Shipley shall remain under her sole name." 5 years ago, she'd quietly armed me for a war she must have known was coming. The next morning, with sunlight cutting through the motel blinds, I made my decision. Not revenge. Not even justice. Just the truth, finally out in the open where it couldn't be erased anymore. That scandal changed everything. My grandmother's crisp handwriting staring back at me from the screen: "All educational materials and preparatory curriculum created or co-developed with Belle Shipley shall remain under her sole name." Dated 3 months before she died. Signed. Notarized. A legal shield she'd crafted for me years before I'd need it. I traced the pixels of her signature with my finger, wondering how many other quiet protections she'd tried to give me that had been lost or forgotten by the rest of the family. The date stamp on the file showed I'd uploaded it during my junior year of college, right after Stephanie had borrowed my lesson plans for her high school peer tutoring club and taken full credit. Grandma must have known this would keep happening. She knew them better than I did. I printed 3 copies at the library. One for my records. One for a lawyer. One to tape to the motel wall right next to Stephanie's email calling me bitter and unstable. The librarian gave me a strange look when I asked for the notary's contact information. "Family matter," I said, which wasn't a lie. The notary, a woman named Margaret with sharp gray eyes and a desk covered in cat calendars, took one look at the document and snorted. "This is airtight," she said. "They teach you anything about intellectual property law in that fancy college of yours?" I shook my head. "Well, lesson 1, possession is 9/10 of the law, but documentation is the whole damn game." She slid her card across the desk. "You need backup, you call me." That night, Stephanie's followers started flooding my tutoring profiles with 1-star reviews. Scammer. Fraud. Steals from her own family. I screenshot every one, compiling them in a folder labeled evidence like I was preparing for war. Because I was. The next morning, my website hosting service sent an alert, copyright violation claim received. Someone, and we both knew who, had reported my own lesson plans as stolen content. My account was suspended pending review. I laughed so hard I scared the guy in the next motel room. Of course she'd strike there first. Stephanie always went for the throat when cornered. Margaret responded to my panicked email within 20 minutes. Classic Darvo, she wrote. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. Standard playbook for narcissists. Her words felt clinical, like she'd seen this exact scenario 100 times before. That should have comforted me. Instead, it made my hands shake. How many other people had sat in this exact same chair, staring at this exact same playbook? How many others had been erased by their own families? I spent 3 days gathering evidence. Timestamped lesson plans from my college Google Drive. Student testimonials dating back years. Even that email from Stephanie's sophomore year, "Can you send me your algebra notes? I'll totally credit you." Spoiler, she didn't. The library printer groaned under the weight of it all. The teenage clerk raised an eyebrow at my stack of documents. "School project?" he asked. "Something like that," I said. If only he knew. Then the Reddit thread appeared. Posted by some throwaway account with 2 karma. My sister stole my life's work and my family helped. The writing style was unmistakable, Stephanie S. saccharine victim voice dripping from every word. Comments poured in, blood is thicker than water. Family first. Why air dirty laundry publicly? I read them all, my stomach twisting. The worst part? Part of me still wanted to defend her. To jump in and say she's not usually like this or you don't understand the whole story. Old habits die hard, I guess. Margaret's advice was blunt, go nuclear or go home. So I did. I filmed a 12-minute video in that motel bathroom because it had the best lighting. No makeup. No script. Just me, Grandma's will, and the truth. Silence is strength, I said to the camera, but today? Today truth needs a voice. I showed every document. Every timestamp. Side-by-side comparisons of my original work and Stephanie's Academy materials. I didn't cry. Didn't raise my voice. Just laid it all out like the closing argument at a trial no one knew we'd been having for years. When I clicked upload, my hands were steady for the first time in weeks. The internet did what the internet does. Within hours, my inbox exploded. Former students, you're the reason I passed calculus. That mom from Houston, don't let them silence you. Even Stephanie's former intern slid into my DMs with screenshots, Stephanie directing her to make it look more original by changing the fonts. The Reddit moderators locked the thread with a new flair, misinformation. Stephanie's follower count dropped by 20K overnight. Part of me expected to feel victorious. Instead, I just felt tired. Tired in a way no amount of motel coffee could fix. Then the voicemails started. First from Dad, "Bellin, this is getting out of hand." Then Mom, "We're sorry. You didn't deserve that." The pauses between her words said more than the words themselves. Stephanie left 3. Each progressively more unhinged. The last one was just heavy breathing followed by, "You're dead to me." I saved them all. Not for leverage. Not even for proof. Just to remind myself, when the guilt crept in, exactly how quickly their love turned to venom. The certified letter arrived 2 days later. Thick legal envelope. Stephanie's attorney's letterhead. Confidential settlement offer. 6 figures to disappear. The NDA would have gagged me from ever speaking about the theft, the will, even the unopened birthday card. Margaret laughed when I forwarded it. Standard hush money, she said. They're scared. I stared at that number, more money than I'd ever seen in my life, and realized something terrifying. I didn't want it. Not like this. Not with strings attached that would forever tighten around my throat every time I thought about telling the truth. The shredder ate the NDA with a satisfying crunch. I filmed its last moments and posted it with one caption: "Some silences aren't worth selling." The comments section became a graveyard of Esahivilla, our stories, sisters, brothers, parents who'd stolen inheritances, erased contributions, rewritten histories. Reading them, I realized something: this was never just about lesson plans. It was about existing. About being allowed to take up space in the narrative of my own life. The final blow came from an unexpected place: Grandma's old church group. Mrs. Calloway, who still taught Sunday school at 82, emailed me out of the blue: "Your grandmother left something with me for you. Just in case." Attached was a scan of a handwritten note I'd never seen before: "Belle, if you're reading this, they've tried to take what's yours. Remember, the law is on your side, but more importantly, the truth is. Love, Grandma." Dated 1 week before she died. I pressed my forehead against the library computer screen and finally let myself cry. That night, I dreamt of Grandma's kitchen. She was humming that old hymn she loved, rolling out pie crust with her gnarled hands. "They'll try to make you small," she said without looking up. "Don't let them." When I woke up, the motel room smelled like cinnamon for just a second before the cigarette stench returned. But the feeling lingered. That stubborn, unkillable love. The legal battle lasted 6 weeks. Margaret filed the injunction. Stephanie countersued. The judge took one look at Grandma's will and dismissed her case with prejudice. "This is frivolous," he said in the hearing, which Stephanie didn't even bother to attend. When the ruling came down, I sat in the courthouse bathroom and threw up. Not from nerves. From relief. From the sheer weight of being believed. I thought that would be the end of it. But families like mine? We don't do clean endings. 2 days after the ruling, my website was reinstated with an apology from the hosting service. That same afternoon, a new notification popped up: Stephanie had tagged me in a post. Just 2 words: "You win." The comments were already flooding in: supporters, haters, gossipers. I didn't respond. Didn't block her. Just screenshot it and added it to the folder. Another artifact in the museum of our unraveling. The scholarship fund started small. Grandma's name in bold letters at the top of the page. For students who show up even when no one else does. The first donation came from Mrs. Calloway. The second from Margaret. The third from a username I didn't recognize. Later I realized it was Stephanie's former intern. The thank you notes began arriving within weeks. Most were from strangers. One was from Riley, that first tutoring student: "You taught me more than math. You taught me how to fight back." I taped it next to Grandma's note on my new apartment wall. The first 2 pieces in a gallery of my own making. The last time I saw Stephanie was at the courthouse steps. She wore oversized sunglasses and a scowl. Mom and Dad flanked her like bodyguards. We didn't speak. Didn't need to. Some silences say everything. As I turned to leave, I heard Mom call my name just once, soft and broken. I kept walking. Not out of spite. Not even out of anger. But because for the first time in my life, I finally believed I deserved better than conditional love. That night, I sat in my new apartment: no neon signs, no stained carpets, and scrolled through the photos on my phone. Not the family portraits or holiday snaps. The receipts. The screenshots. The paper trail of my unerasure. Outside, the city lights glittered like the night I'd arrived, but everything else had changed. I wasn't that girl on the bus anymore. I was someone who had fought to exist. And won. It's been a year since I last heard from them. No birthday calls. No holiday cards. Not even one of those awkward group texts that families send when they're pretending everything's fine. Just silence. And here's the funny thing: I don't miss it. Not the way I thought I would. The first few months, I'd catch myself reaching for my phone when something reminded me of home: the smell of cinnamon rolls like Mom used to burn every Christmas morning, or that one song Dad would whistle while fixing the sink. But now? Now the quiet feels like something I've earned. Like the universe finally stopped screaming in my ear long enough for me to hear myself think. The scholarship fund hit $50,000 last month. Nothing life-changing, but enough to cover textbooks for 30 kids or a semester's tuition for 2. Mrs. Calloway sends handwritten updates from the church every quarter, how Jason got into trade school, how Maria aced her nursing exams. I keep them all in a shoebox under my bed, next to Grandma's recipe cards. Sometimes, when the apartment feels too quiet, I'll pull one out and trace the ink where her pen pressed too hard. For Belle's blueberry pie, use extra lemon zest. She always knew I'd need the reminder.
I tutor full-time now. Mostly college freshmen drowning in Comp 101. They show up to my tiny office with their 2 big backpacks and their nervous laughter, and I see myself at 18, desperate for someone to say you're not failing, you're just learning. Last Tuesday, a girl named Priya burst into tears when I told her essay wasn't terrible. My high school teacher said I'd never get into college, she mumbled into her sleeves. I handed her a tissue and Grandma's old advice: people who measure your worth in grades don't get a seat at your table. She wrote it on her hand in Sharpie. Some truths are too important to risk forgetting. The apartment's coming together. Still mostly IKEA, but there's a real bookshelf now, crammed with thrift store finds and the few books I salvaged from childhood. The ones with my name scribbled inside the covers, proof I existed before they tried to erase me. On the wall above my desk, I've pinned the first check from my tutoring business, the court order dismissing Stephanie S. case, and that note from Riley: you taught me how to fight back. My own private museum of victories no one can take away. Havila visits sometimes. She brings wine and gossip about people we used to know. Last week, she let it slip that Stephanie S. working at some influencer marketing firm, basically getting paid to be fake full-time. We laughed until our ribs hurt. But later, washing the glasses in my sink, I caught myself wondering if she's happy. Not and I miss her way. More like, checking the weather in a city you used to live in. Just curious if the storms you survived are still raging. The dreams are fewer now. No more midnight panic attacks, no more flinching when my phone buzzes. Though I did jump last month when a certified letter arrived, not from a lawyer, but from the state. Turns out Grandma left me one last thing: a plot in the old cemetery, right next to hers. So you'll always have a place to come home to, the note said. I keep the deed in my safety deposit box, along with her pearls and that unopened birthday card. Not because I'm sentimental. Because some truths need keeping. I dated someone for a while. A librarian named Daniel who laughed at my terrible puns and didn't flinch when I admitted I still sleep with the lights on. It ended amicably when he moved for grad school, but he taught me something important: that love doesn't have to hurt to be real. That it's okay to take up space in someone else's life without apologizing for it. We still send each other terrible memes sometimes. Little digital postcards saying I remember you exist. It's more than my family ever managed. The podcast episode aired last week. Not Stephanie S., some indie journalist reached out after the court case went viral. I almost said no. But then I thought about all the other Bells out there, sitting in someone else's silence, and I did it for them. The host asked what I'd say to my family now. I didn't even hesitate, nothing. Not out of spite. But because the thing about erasure is, you don't owe the people who tried to delete you an explanation for existing. The reviews called me brave. I just feel tired in a good way, like after a long hike. The kind of tired that means you've earned your rest. Sometimes, when I'm grading papers at 2 a.m., I'll catch my reflection in the dark window. Same freckles. Same stubborn cowlick. But the eyes are different, lighter, somehow. Like they've been scrubbed clean of all those years of squinting in the dark, waiting for someone to turn on the lights. I smile at her sometimes, that girl in the glass. Not the triumphant, Instagram-ready kind. Just a small, private thing between survivors. We made it, I tell her. And for once, I believe it. The last time I saw my mother was at the grocery store. 3 months ago. She was in the organic aisle, comparing almond butters like the world depended on her choice. I could have turned down another aisle. Could have pretended not to see her. But I didn't. I walked right up and reached past her for the crunchy kind, Grandma's favorite. She froze when she recognized me. "Belle," she breathed, like testing a bruise. I waited for the guilt to hit. The old urge to make myself smaller. Instead, I just didn't. "Hi, Mom," I said, "come as you please." And when she opened her mouth, to apologize, to explain, to demand, I didn't stick around to find out. Just walked away with my groceries and my freedom, two things I no longer had to earn. This morning, I got an email from a woman in Ohio. Her daughter's using my curriculum at community college. She says your worksheets are the only thing that makes sense, she wrote. Like you're right, they're cheering her on. I printed it and added it to the wall. Another voice in the chorus saying what my family never could, "I see you. You matter." The apartment's getting cluttered with these little testaments. Proof that what we build in the shadows can outshine anything they tried to take. So here's my question for you, where does your voice live now? In the apologies they never gave? In the space they refused to make? Or in the life you built despite them? Comment below. Not for them. For you. For every time you needed someone to say, "The world is brighter with you in it." Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. As for me, I'll be here. In my imperfect apartment with my thrift store books and my quiet victories. Still tutoring. Still writing. Still taking up space like I was born to do it. Because here's the secret no one tells you about being erased: once you stop running from the silence, you realize it was never empty to begin with. It was always full of you.